Welcome to the You Decide podcast. I'm Dr. Tiffany. We're going to bring you stories of ordinary people who have chosen to live an extraordinary life, outside of their comfort zones and into confidence, possibility, and certainty. You are just one decision away from living your most aligned life, because let's get real, that's what we all want. Hello! Welcome to the You Decide podcast again. We have Callyn. Today we are going to dig into the injury. She tore her ACL in January of 2017.
Yeah, junior year. I don't know what year that is.
Dude, what year was that? 2018.
18.
Yep, whoops. It feels like it's been a long time. So we're going to talk about, we're going to have a few episodes on this because there are so many nuggets that we all learned. And she will talk about her end. I'll talk about our end as a family and as a mom going through it. And stop looking at me. Okay, so for all of you who can't see our video, as soon as I start talking, she just stares at me with deer in the headlights. Okay, just look forward.
You usually look at people when you talk.
Okay, but not that much. So we're going to talk about the stage of the injury, pre-surgery, post-surgery, what it was like as part of a team, what it was like at school, what it was like at home, and then we're going to go on with a few different episodes on what she learned, the disciplines that she implemented. Instead of her identity being based in one thing, which she thought that was who she was, that changed. And so now she gets, I mean, you really learned who you were in the process and how to go inside and figure out what your body wanted. Because when she would be stressed prior, she would go for a run, right? And she would just keep moving and moving and moving and moving. And that's what relieved stress. And obviously after an injury like an ACL, there was no moving for a long time. And so she started to go batty and rammy and frustrated. And how she knew how to cope with that was running before. And so that had to change massively. Yep. So let's go through. Let's start with, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to talk about what happened, like how the injury happened, or do you just want to talk about, you just start talking. How about that?
Okay, so all I remember was we had thrown the ball to the other team, a turnover, and the girl was going for a wide open layup, and I was the closest to the ball, so I had to chase her down. Well, I tried to defend her and put my hand up, and she was a little bit bigger than me. She was built, so I landed and my knee just twisted and I fell to the ground, and I don't remember much besides the fact that I screamed and held my knee and it was just in a bent position. It wouldn't straighten. And then I was getting not carted off, but the trainers.
Carried.
Yeah.
You were carried off by the trainers and the athletic director. And I remember sitting there. We were all at that game. Gavin was even at that game. And I remember being up in the stands and people, I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. You don't remember any of this, of course, but it was a full gym because we were playing Davies. It was a huge girls-guys game. And I remember someone saying, "Tiff, I think it's just a cramp." And I said, no, this is not just a cramp. So what felt like 5 minutes I sat there, I probably only sat there for 30 seconds observing you screaming and so on and so forth. And so any parent who has went through any injury, and I'm thankful, any parent that has had to go through much worse than injury, that this was difficult in and of itself. And I can't imagine a health issue that is longer than a 2-year recovery, for example. So my heart goes out to anybody who has struggled with more than an ACL tear, because there's a lot worse out there. But we get to share from our perspective as a family now. That happened. The trainer at the time basically, well, you knew, right?
I knew it wasn't good, and I right away ACL.
Yep. That's what I mean, in basketball and soccer, that's kind of what girls, especially what girls are looking to prevent and what they're looking to strengthen their legs and their core is all to prevent ACLs, right? And so the trainer mentioned something of the sort, and she definitely had a feeling of that was it. So we did MRIs and we did, right? That was about a week after. Anyway, after 3 or 4 days, we knew that's what it was. Can you go through your mental state in the first week?
Well, so the day we played Davies was the day before the first day of finals. So thankfully, one of my teammates, the mom, was my math teacher for the next day. So I just mentioned to her, like, what, can I take it later? And she said no, but I'm lenient on, like, this is a terrible situation. So I was on crutches. The trainer gave me crutches and then had me wrapped. Well, like, sitting in a chair, like, the desks are so close and the chairs, like, I needed to put my legs straight out on a chair. Well, how inconvenient is that at finals? Everyone's sitting in rows. Everyone has to be quiet. Like,
stressed out.
There's no room, and I'm stressed and I'm in pain and I have to take these finals. Like, I just remember, so my math one was the next day, and then I think the MRI was the day after. Mm-hmm. So then we got my MRI, and then I had to go back to school. I was crying because the MRI hurt. And then we got the results, and I had to go back to my final. So the last day, it was just emotions all over the place. Plus, I was stressed. Like, I'm dedicated to school, so I'm always stressed during finals. Like, I need to do good. Well, there were so many other things that were on my mind that, just overwhelmed. Just wanted to cry the whole time. I remember going out for sushi with you guys and just bawling because I found out that I wasn't going to play the rest of basketball, no more soccer. It was just
And that was your junior year. So from a athlete standpoint, at that point, you knew you wanted to play college sports. Anyone who has a high school athlete knows that the biggest recruiting year is junior year, right? Yep. And that was definitely in her brain of like, ooh, this may have messed up my chances, and, you know, all the fears that come through when there's uncertainty, bottom line. All right. So did how you fit in this team change?
Yes, because all my connection, when you play a sport, your connection is on the field or on the court or field. So I'm closer with the people that I play with. So like the bench people, they're still incorporated in the team, but you tend to get closer with the people you're actually participating with. Well, I wasn't in that. I sat out at practice, sat out at games. I was at the end of the bench at games. So the last one to give the high fives. I wasn't in with the communication with the team when they went to like team bonding, bowlings. Like I couldn't go anywhere with my knee. So I wasn't with my same group of friends that we did hang out after games, you know, like it was just totally different.
Yeah. The whole process was different. And so she struggled a little bit in friends, like who's my friend, who's not my friend, who was my friend, who's my friend now, who would go out of their way to help, who wouldn't. And it is what it is, because everyone has their own stuff that they're working on. Right. And that's one thing you learned is everyone's lives continue. So just because I'm home and you're miserable and you're not sleeping and nobody has any idea what this is like, that's what was in your mind. They're still trying to be the best they can be in their life, right?
Well, and a lot of there are a ton of people who came to me the first 2 months. Well, that's the worst. That's the right away everything. Mm-hmm. But then as you progress, you're still in this mode of rehab, but it's not the prime talk, you know, right. Like they don't remember that as much. So you tend to not get as many, it'll be okay support type or like things.
You still couldn't bowl. You weren't able to go sledding. There's so many, you couldn't tube in the summer.
That was awful.
You know, there were so many things that you don't even think about when somebody looks normal. And whether it's injury, whether it's depression, when things aren't a physical limitation, we sometimes don't remember that people are struggling or going through whatever they're going through.
Yep.
So we talked about, I think our first podcast episode was about the lunchroom, right?
Yeah.
Callyn has lunchroom problems. But some things that you didn't realize how much we take for granted our freedom and independence and ability to move was in the lunchroom, right?
Yes. You have to hold a tray with 2 hands and you have to hold crutches with 2 hands. So how do you do that?
And then it became I'm not going to eat today because I don't want to ask anyone for help, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about that? Can you talk about what you learned about asking for help?
Well, there's such a stigma today on asking for help. You seem weak and you seem like you can't do it yourself. Well, I was sick of my mom bringing me water all the time. I'd have to ask, and they'd get annoyed. I saw it on their face, like, Mom, can you get me water? I can't go get water. And like, for them, that's frustrating. Like, they know I'm in pain and I can't do it, but they're sick of constantly helping. So I'm like, I'm not going to ask people all the time. I want to try to figure it out. Well, when you almost slip falling to go get lunch, you're like, if I'm not asking, I'm not doing it. I don't want to ask. And I don't remember if I stayed for lunches or went home.
Well, you did a mix of them.
Because I remember, like, I don't remember who I sat with junior year, but it probably wasn't, like, my closest friends that I was comfortable being like, hey, or they even asked. You know, sometimes, like, I learned if people are in crutches, you just help them. Like, also having someone to do it, you know.
Yeah, well, to be aware enough to step in, right? But you would never, I mean, until that, you didn't?
I wouldn't have realized that.
No, how limited you are. So you can't carry a book with crutches, right? So you had to carry all of your books in your backpack as you tried.
I didn't go to my locker.
Right. So we would drop you off at school with a full backpack that you could just go directly to your classes or into the elevator and up and over. Couldn't open a door. So there's all these things that I think one of the biggest lessons that you realized during the first 6 months for sure, or maybe 3 months, but was asking for help. Like, how did you get over yourself?
Well, I was starting to, like, not get things done and, like, not eat. And it was, like, repetition of these things. Like, well, I need to go grab my backpack, or I need to go grab this. Like, I just have to ask for help because I'm going to get hurt. Like, trying. I tried, but sometimes, like, I couldn't do it. So learning how to, like, it's okay to ask for help, and people are more than willing if you actually ask. It seems like they have a lot going on, but there's a lot of people who actually stop their day to 2 minutes to go grab you something. And
so how has that changed in your life? Like, not just lunchroom or school now, but is it easier?
It's easier with professionals, I think. Like, I'm more willing to talk to teachers. So like, after that year, I had to be super open with my teachers. Like, I had so many appointments. I had so many things that I learned that I was actually on their side because I was so, like, connected with them that if I could keep that up without having an injury, I was going to be way more better. So
way more better.
Yeah, that was bad.
Good. That's good grammar.
It sounded really good in my head, and then it came out and it wasn't.
With that, when you said you were on their side, do you feel like you realized that teachers, counselors, professionals, principals are also on the kids' side? If you show up like that.
Right. They're not going to just be like, oh, you're my favorite. Or,
right.
You know, like, you have to put in effort also. They have how many students do they have?
Yeah.
The ones that actually put effort in are the ones that get the benefit. So.
Right. Build a relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think about that just in how many of those people were at your graduation. That's a sidebar. That's a random comment of the day, I guess. Okay. Last thing on this chat, at least, is discipline. You are one of the most disciplined people I know. Way more than I am.
Yes.
I was just waiting for your confirmation. Well, yes. Oh, yes, for sure. And it was so, like I said, I will talk about this in what I learned from her going through this and from our family going through this. But did discipline improve, or like what makes you, like, what was your inspiration to do everything it took times 10? I mean, the healing process that she went through was following the medical recommendations. So the first things first was PT, and we implemented, obviously I'm adjusting her, and massage and
Yoga
and meditation and supplements, naturopath. Anything else, like in addition to what?
Do we do acupuncture?
No, nothing.
No.
So 6 things that were in your system, essentially in your day. I mean, she was absolutely loaded. It became her full-time job, but not all kids see it that way. Like, how did you, the mindset of, I'm going to do this right. I'm not going to look back and wonder what if. I'm going to follow the recommendations. I'm going to do it every single, I mean, you did it every single day. You never took a shortcut.
Well, for as long as I've known, sports have been like my motivation, oh my gosh, the dogs.
I know.
It's been what is my happiness, like where I interact with my friends. So I was not going to let this injury, which a lot of people, it's their season ending, their career ending. Yes. And I was never going to let that be the reason why I didn't come back. So I was going to do everything I could to be better than I was. I heard so many people, I followed so many like ACL accounts, injury accounts that said, you'll be better when you come back. You'll be stronger when you come back or whatever. Well, that's such a statement if you do it. So there's so many people who, oh yeah, it'll be better. It'll be better. And they don't do it. Like, they don't do the minimum, the requirement. So they're not even following the doctor's recommendations yet. They're not doing above and beyond to even be better than where they were. How are you supposed to get back? How are you supposed to even perform at the same level? And especially going back to varsity and not having like C squad, like lower competition, you had to do everything you could. And I had a few people who had injuries prior that I saw what I didn't want to do. So there were,
just like in anything in life, like when I think of business, right? You think of business failures that happened before you, or relationship challenges that happened before yours. And you look at those to be like, all right, this is what
they did,
or this is what maybe didn't work, or this is what I love about this couple or business or athlete. And you start to model, right? Yep. You start to model after them. You were, you definitely went down a journey of minding your mindset. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That you never had before, or you never needed to, or.
Well, and now I have such a different like thought process kind of on how to get prepared. So when the coaches say you need to do this or you need to be working out, like my workout is this, but I'm going to do so much more so that I'm ahead of these people. Like, that also shows the coaches who is putting more time in, like, they want to see the people that excel. They don't want minimum level players. And for me to be like, yeah, I can do this. Like, there's going to be way more harder challenges. And as long as I'm prepared for this, I will be perfectly fine. And that was my thing. I want to be prepared. I don't want to be wishing I did something different or had worked harder. Like, that's the worst thing ever.
Isn't that one thing we talked about was regret?
Yeah.
And that regret weighs a heck of a lot more than any other emotion. To look back after what you did and wish that you would have done something different is heavy and yucky, and you were not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of my friends are still in sports, so they were in the midst of the varsity season. So I didn't have a lot of connections with them since I was out of it doing my rehab, not making all the practices. So I was kind of my own friend, which I learned. So I started to do things that I wanted to do, and I'd never done that before. I'm a really selfless person, so a lot of times I did a lot of things for other people so that we'd be close friends. Not to be close friends, but
not to sacrifice who you are, but maybe not to listen fully to what you wanted.
So started doing all these things, and I've learned, wow, my body actually wants this a lot more, and I need to make time for these things.
So proud of you.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next episode, we're going to talk about her comeback, and not so much just entering the field and the court again, but what led up to that. We are going to talk about discipline a little bit more. We're going to talk about how you became your own friend. We're going to talk about what you needed to do, like what habits you needed to be able to listen to your body, because you didn't always, I mean, you were in tune with your body, but you didn't listen to what like your intuition and gut and heart said, or you heard it, but you didn't always listen. Right.
Didn't think I needed it as much as
Yeah, right. Well, and it never probably paid off to the extent that you wanted it
for sure
to, or needed it to.
Right.
And then getting back to play, which was, this whole 2-year process has been quite the journey, way more because you thought, oh, once I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Not as much. Just like anything in life, once we decide we're ready, or once we get the green light, or once the doctor says you're healed, that doesn't mean that we go straight back into Mach 1, adrenaline junkie. My body can compete at that level again. And so that's really where you went internal, because things got difficult.
Very.
Yes. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening and being willing to go all in. Ditch the excuses and the comfort zones and make a decision that nothing can stop you. You can find the show notes below, and I'd love for you to share, subscribe, and rate this podcast, but only if you love it.